Hello, welcome to Raymond Castile's Basement of Horror. This is a special election week episode of Basement of Horror. We have an presidential election-themed series of monster toys to show you today. So let's pull out the first one here. Let's just start with, this is probably the most famous one. This is Baracula from the Presidential Monsters line from 2011. Baracula. And of course, he is former President Barack Obama as Dracula. Let's see if I can get him a little closer so you can see detail. As with most Dracula toys, you can't see a lot of detail in the costume because the cape covers it up in the package. Here's the artwork. Well, you can see the full version of the artwork on the front. Very impressive artwork, by the way. All of these figures, I mean, this whole enterprise, and this is more than just a set of figures. We'll talk about that later, but this whole endeavor has fantastic artwork. Here it is in the back. Very nice card back. You can see that they took the card presentation very seriously. Put a lot of effort into getting Class A level artists to paint professional illustrations for the front and back. And it really adds a lot to the whole mystique of this toy line. This initial series includes 7 figures. Lincoln's obviously have Baracula, Lincolnstein, Wolf Bill, the Ronemy, Zombush, Monster from the Watergate Lagoon, and the Phantom of the White House. That's the original set of 7. There was, and I have a promotional flyer here. There was to be an 8th figure originally, the Spirit of 76, the ghost of George Washington. And I think that was going to be a glow-in-the-dark figure. I'm not sure, but I think it was going to glow in the dark. I think the idea was sort of to make it like the ghost of Captain Kidd from the Fighting Furies line. I think that was the idea. And he was originally going to be part of this initial wave. They put them out in two waves, actually. The first was Baracula, Lincolnstein, Wolf, Bill, and the Ronemy, those 4. And then Zombush, Monster from the Watergate Lagoon, and Phantom of the White House came out a little bit later. But I think they all came out around 2011. I think they all did come out in 2011, I think. We might find out looking at some of the other dates on the other cards, but I think they're all 2011. But the 7 of them together are the series, and there was supposed to be one more, Spirit of 76, and he never got released. And there's quite a few unreleased figures, as we'll discuss. But this is a nice little flyer. I'm not sure where this came from. I don't know if this came with the set, or if I got this somewhere else. I might have got this at, what was that, Burbank, California convention. Darn it, I talked about it last season on the show. Well, maybe it'll come back to me. But a big monster horror convention in Burbank, California. I might have gotten this at that convention. I'm not sure. Well, it says here with all of these characters represented, copyright 2011, Heroes in Action. So all of these are from 2011. So that's the set that we're going to talk about today. Oh, Monster Palooza. That's the name. Monster Palooza. That was the convention in Burbank. So, as some people noticed at the giveaway video, I had a sore throat, losing my voice. I have been sick. I'm still sick, but I'm getting over it. I was coughing a lot, and had a congestion. So there might still be some signs of that during this recording. You might still be able to tell I'm a little not quite right, but I'm getting better. So it was about a 4 or 5 day sickness, but it's lifting. It's on the way out, I hope. So I'm getting better. Let's talk about, before we show the rest of the set, let's talk about these things. But this Barack Obama, this is an impressive looking figure, and as you'll see, they're very elaborate, very well detailed figures, very serious looking, and they do two things at the same time. They're both very well done as monster figures, but they're also very well done as serious interpretations of these people, of the actual person. So they take the likeness seriously and they take the character seriously. And I like that because you can see Barack Obama reflected in that face, in that expression. If he were a vampire, I guess he might look something like that. Or if he were cosplaying as a vampire, maybe. So that's impressive. There was a lot of juggling that they're doing with this line. They're making a monster line, and they're also making a celebrity line. So this is, back in the day, there used to be a lot of celebrity dolls, and that's not something you see very much anymore. So this kind of harkens back to the day of the celebrity doll. And, back in the 70s, early 80s, celebrity dolls tended to look very good. They tended to really nail the likeness. Even into the 90s, they tended to really get the likeness right on. I don't collect celebrity dolls, but just thinking back, and I've thought this before, some of the highest quality action figures from the 70s, like the larger form of 8-inch, 12-inch, not like He-Man or 3 3/4 inch, the larger ones. Some of the best action figures of the 70s, 80s to like mid-90s were these celebrity dolls. It's not a genre that I collect. It's not very exciting to me. It's not very exciting to most collectors. Most collectors don't care about that, including me. I don't really care about that. But as an observation, they're some of the best made action figures / dolls. The likenesses are usually dead on. I'm not talking about like TV characters so much. I mean the ones that lean more towards the actor or singer or politician or personality themselves. They tend to be really good likenesses and really well made and lots of detail. So these figures harken back to that tradition. They harken back to a lot of different traditions combined together. The presidential monsters, they were introduced in 2011. I assume that was timed ahead of the 2012 election cycle. So you had a presidential election in 2012, and this series was aiming to get out ahead of that. So it came out about a year before that election to try to take advantage of all the hype about anything presidential and political that would be in the culture during that year. And I think it was good timing because the 2012 election, it wasn't particularly controversial compared to 2000 or 2008 or 2016 or this year. The 2012 election was one of the less controversial ones. I'd say like maybe 2004 and 2012 were both kind of, compared to some of these other ones in the last 20 years, they were kind of mild. Really like 96, 2004, and 2012 were comparatively mild elections compared to the ones before and after them, which were very controversial elections with a lot of passions running high. Passions are always running high with presidential elections, but for the last 25 years or so, they've been particularly high. And in 2012, though, I think was one of the more calm elections we've had. It didn't feel like the country was going to tear itself to pieces in 2012. There was tension, but it wasn't like the last two elections, and it wasn't like 2000. So I think it was good timing to get these out in 2011 during a election season, presidential election season. They had just enough drama to help promote something like this. They had just enough political drama in the air, but not so much that it took up all the oxygen and people didn't have time or mental space to think about something like this. So it was a good timing that year. These are all obviously 8-inch Mego style figures, and they were sold in stores. I remember them being in stores. Heroes in Action, the company that made them, it is a Los Angeles-based company. It's still in business. I'm not sure if it is calling itself Heroes in Action now. It's also known as Heroes Entertainment. Heroes Entertainment. I don't know now, is it calling itself Heroes Entertainment or Heroes in Action? I'm not sure. But those are two names it's gone under. And it was founded by Mark Huckabone. You've heard that name on this show before. Mark Huckabone is a very well-known figure in the action figure collecting community. He goes way back to the 1980s when he was dealing in mostly Mego superheroes. Mark, well, I don't know how much toy dealing he does these days, but back in the 90s, like late 80s through the 90s, he specialized in Mego. Vintage Mego. He was the Mego king. He had everything Mego. Although I once sold him a Mego superhero he didn't have. He didn't have a carded Iron Man, and I sold him a carded Iron Man. So that was a major piece of his collection that I was able to contribute. Well, actually, I didn't sell it to him. I traded. It was a trade, but whatever. But generally speaking, if it was a Mego item, superhero or otherwise, he had it. There were other people who were also big names with Mego collecting, but he was arguably the biggest name. There might have been one or two people who perhaps had more stuff or more obscure stuff. But as far as notoriety, I think Mark had the notoriety. Definitely he was front and center with the notoriety as far as being the Mego guy. He had just tons of the superheroes boxed and carded in every variation, you name it, fist fighting, whatever. He had it. He had almost all of the different non-superhero lines that Mego made. If it was Mego, he had it. And he was wheeling and dealing just daily, I'm sure, buying and selling stuff. And I bought a lot of stuff from Mark Huckabone. And I racked up a lot of long-distance telephone bills talking to Mark. Because once you got on the phone with Mark, you were on the line for an hour or two or three. And those phone calls cost a lot of money. And then sometimes his mom would come on, and his mom would start talking to me. Or I'd call asking for Mark, and his mom would answer instead. I talked to her. So those were interesting times back then. So Mark is a huge name in collecting, particularly with Mego, but just toy collecting in general. He's a generalist. He had everything, but he was particularly known for Mego. And then he got into show business and acting, and he's been on some reality TV like Toy Hunter and what's that, Comic Book Man. So, and I'm sure there's other stuff he's been on. Those two I've seen. He's had little parts in movies and things, so he's been also trying to get into show business. And this is another enterprise, and he was talking about this kind of thing way back, back in the 90s. He wanted basically his own Mego. He wanted his own company to produce 8-inch action figures. He wanted to have his own Mego-style toy company. And that was a dream of his way back. So this series this toy series that we're talking about today is the culmination of that dream. In 2011, he finally made it happen, and he put out a real bona fide action figure line. These aren't custom. There's no resin here. No one's putting these together in their basement. These are mass-produced, made in China, industrial, manufactured action figures that were sold in mainstream retail outlets. And they did pretty well, as far as I know. They weren't the hit of the century or anything like that. They weren't, Cabbage Patch Kids, but they did well, as I recall. They were a success. As we'll see in a few minutes, enough of a success that Mark and his partners in this company tried to use them as a launch pad for other things. Before we talk about that, let's see more of the figure. I think we've talked enough, so let's just see some more figures. See what they did with these. Okay. So I showed you Baracula. He's probably the most famous figure of the line. Another reason to show you him first. The first figure they made before this line was a standard Barack Obama presidential action figure, not a monster or just a celebrity doll, a political celebrity doll of the president, Barack Obama, just as himself, in a suit and a tie kind of thing. I don't know what package it had. I've seen a picture of it, but I don't remember. But I think it looked essentially the same, except no fangs. But the head sculpt was similar, and it was a very nice, accurate-looking Barack Obama 8-inch action figure. And they put that out in 2009, so the year after he was elected the first time. They put that out. And then the Lincoln was another important step that led to this toy line. This is Lincolnstein. Obviously, it's a Frankenstein version of Abraham Lincoln. And that's really, really good sculpt. You might not like the whole concept of presidents as monsters. I don't know, you might think that's kind of weird or silly or whatever, but you have to admit that the sculpt is really good. It's really gothic, really serious. And I like his outfit. No green jacket. So you saw the artwork on the front, and here it is on the back. The front is full color, and on the back it's all green tinted. He kind of has his coat has like a Hammer Frankenstein look rather than like a Universal Boris Karloff look. It kind of looks more like Christopher Lee's creature in Curse of Frankenstein. Kind of has that vibe. And I know there's a lot of reflection on this bubble. I don't know how to get rid of that. It's particularly bad when the toys are black, which with monsters they often are black, because that reflects the the imagery from the basement. It reflects even more when it's black. If it's light color, you don't see it as much. Well, so Lincoln is important because I know they made the Barack Obama figure. I don't know if they made a standalone Lincoln figure. I don't think they did. Oh, this is cute. I just noticed his stovepipe top hat has little electrodes sticking out of it, so that if you put it on his head, right here, there would be electrodes sticking out right there. Does he have electrodes on his neck? No, I don't think he does. They're on his hat. So if he wears his hat, the electrodes would be there, like Frankenberry or generic Halloween Frankensteins have the electrodes up there, or Lincoln Frankenstein or Mad Monsters Frankenstein. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. Can you? Yeah, I think you can see it. Can you see the electrodes sticking out of the hat down there? So he's got the electrodes on his hat. So if he wears the hat, the electrodes are right there. That's clever. I like that. I hadn't noticed that until just now. And is there something on top of his hat? There is some texture or something, but I can't make out what it is. The hat is made of, looks like just from the sound it makes when it rattles around, it's firm, it's rigid, it's not like, you can't squeeze it. So I'm wondering how it really fits over his head, or if it does. Can't tell, because the opening looks like it might be too small for the head. So I'm not sure. I don't recall ever seeing a photo of the figure actually wearing the hat. I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe he can wear it. Maybe he can't. I don't know. But the hat's there. He's got a lot of detail. He's got, he's green, obviously. But the suit has like multiple layers. They didn't just make like a middle section and stop there. He's got like inner sleeves. Every button is individual. It's actual buttons. A lot of detail in this thing. A lot of detail. A lot of work went into it. And the artwork is great. It was great, almost Aurora style artwork. Very detailed. So my understanding is the Lincoln figure was really the impetus to make this entire line. I thought maybe it was that 2009 Obama figure, but from what I remember reading about this line, it was actually Lincoln. I don't know if they had a Lincoln action figure that they marketed, or if they had a prototype, or what exactly they had. They had internally some kind of Lincoln figure. I don't know if it was ever marketed to the public, just a presidential Lincoln figure. They had the Obama. I don't know if maybe they were going to put out a Lincoln next, but I don't know if it ever actually got out. But internally in the company, they had a Lincoln figure, and they were talking about what they could do with this figure, and they were kind of joking around different things Lincoln could be. And someone suggested a Lincoln Frankenstein, and I just as I say that, of course, I think of the Lincoln International toy line. I'm wondering if that could have been in somebody's head, because this, like, Mark would be the kind of guy who would think of Lincoln Frankenstein, the toy Lincoln Toy Company. He might have put that together, but maybe not. But they thought of Lincoln, the character Frankenstein, Lincolnstein, as being something that you could do with an Abraham Lincoln figure. Make him into Frankenstein. And that's when the light bulb went on. Like, that's a good idea. And I don't know if they made a prototype then of just Lincolnstein, or maybe. But that idea, that concept of Abraham Lincoln as Frankenstein was the jumping off point. And then they thought, well, Obama could be Dracula, and what else can we do? And they started thinking of other presidents and what monster they could be. And there was around the time of that Obama figure, the Dracula one, there was a popular latex mask of Barack Obama as a vampire. I don't remember if it was called Baracula, like this figure, or if it had a different name. But as far as I know, it didn't have any affiliation with this company. And I remember being aware of the mask first. So I don't know if there was any inspiration there from that mask, but I remember that that year that was a popular political mask. Every year there's political masks. Whoever's running for president, whoever's in the news, and that was one of the popular ones that year, was this vampire version of Barack Obama. So that was kind of in the air. That was something in the culture already. So they had Obama, they had Lincoln, and so these are really the foundational pieces of the line with these two figures. These were the things that kicked it off and made them say, hey, we're onto something here. These are the ones that made them think, we have a great concept, let's run with this, let's expand it, let's see what we can do with this. And so they went with it. I'm just noticing that, I guess on all of them, the artwork on the back is always going to be tinted one color. This one's red, but it's going to be full color on the front. So this one, tinted green on the back, full color on the front. That's just something I just noticed. Let's put these over here. Another interesting thing, when I took these out before the show to look at them for the first time in years, I had them in plastic bags, as I usually do. I put everything in plastic bags. Some industrious arachnid had gotten into the box and made little cobweb traps where the bag folds over. Let's see if I can show you. So these are new bags that I put in there. After this recording, I'll replace the bags. But you know how the bag folds over? You put the toy in there and you fold it over and you seal it. Well, in that fold, on several of these, there were little cocoons of webs with dead bugs. And on some of them there was also webs on the bottom. There's no webs in the box. I looked all through the box. I can't find any webs there. It was just the bags. Some crafty little spider decided he was going to set up shop in this box and caught himself some little bugs. He's not there now. I guess he found other hunting grounds. But that was kind of funny to see spider webs on these old monster toys. So here's a more colorful one. We have Baracula all in black with his cape. We have Lincolnstein all in black with his outfit. And now we have one that's really colorful with a big blast of vibrant color. And this is Wolf Bill. He's Bill Clinton as a werewolf. And he's got a saxophone. And he has a tail on back, just like in the artwork. Here he is. And you can see that's a very bright, flamboyant looking toy. And I like that he's just wolfy enough, because they can't go all out with the werewolf design, because then you lose the celebrity likeness. He doesn't look like Bill Clinton anymore. So he's got that kind of Werewolf of London, Jack Nicholson wolf, kind of just wolfy enough appearance. And you see his saxophone. I don't know if you can see the tail back there. That might be a stretch. Can you see the tail? Yeah, almost. Yeah, there you go. I think you can see it. So he has a tail, and it looks like it's a solid plastic tail. I don't think it moves. He's got cool little werewolf feet. So they really went all out. And so far, on these 3 I've seen so far, there's no common pieces. I mean, I'm sure the torso and the arms and legs are common, but the hands, the feet, the heads, and all the costume parts are all original to each character. And he looks all the more creepy because the only thing wolfy about him is slightly more hair, thicker hair, and little fangs, hair coming down here, and little pointy ears, but it's just this hint of wolfiness, and then hair on his hands and feet. But it's, if they'd gone full tilt with the wolf stuff and given him more of a wolf nose, they'd lose the likeness, and it actually would look less creepy. It actually has a kind of unsettling look, making him more human than wolf. And here's the artwork. Bill Clinton with his saxophone. Werewolf of Bill Clinton with his saxophone. And it's great art. It really looks like, a good portrait style painting of Bill Clinton. It captures the character, the expression, So if you're wondering why Bill Clinton has a saxophone, in the 90s when he was running, he was still running for president. This was before he got elected the first time. He was on the Arsenio Hall show. Arsenio Hall, who co-starred with Eddie Murphy in Coming to America, he had a talk show, like a Tonight Show style talk variety show, and it was very popular in its day. And Arsenio Hall had Bill Clinton as a guest when Clinton was running for president, and Clinton came out playing the saxophone. And then when they went to a commercial break, he played some more saxophone, and the band played with him. And that was a big deal for a presidential candidate to act like that. That a lot of people, a lot of analysts at the time thought that had a big impact on the turnout with the younger vote, getting them to support Bill Clinton in that election, that he won over a lot of younger voters that way. And so since then, that saxophone has always kind of stuck. People associate the saxophone with him. And the fact that he's a wolf, he's known for sexual escapades. I could use more harsh language than that, but I don't want to get too mean-spirited talking about these political figures. But even at the time, he was known for that. So I think that wolf, that's why they chose him to be a wolf, because a wolf has the connotation of being a guy who's kind of predatory, chases after women. You see that in cartoons, like old cartoons. The wolf is always chasing the female cartoon characters. Or when a character is supposed to turn, when they're going after a female cartoon character, they turn it into a wolf for a few frames. So like face turns into a wolf and it turns back into their normal self. That's always been a trope in comedic things and cartoons and stuff. So that's why he's a wolf, I think. That's why they picked him to be the wolf. I actually used to know a TV reporter slash anchor woman. I worked with her for a while, and she used to report in Little Rock, Arkansas, on then Governor Clinton. And she told me, you know, he hit on her all the time, and it was well known. He hit on everybody. No big secret. So even back then, that was always part of his persona. That's why he's a wolf. He's Wolf Bill. So, let's see here. Okay, this is... Yeah, there's not really any order to do these in. This is the Phantom of the White House. This is JFK. And it's interesting they don't put the real life name on. Yeah, they don't say he's John F. Kennedy. They didn't say he was Bill Clinton or Barack Obama. They don't put their real names anywhere on the package. That's interesting. You know, that's one way to try to avoid a lawsuit. So here's JFK as the Phantom of the Opera. And I have to say, I don't really get this one. And you can see, kind of like Baracula, you can't really see much of him because he's got that cape. And you can tell from this painting he probably has a beautiful costume underneath, but you can't see it. This is actually one of my least favorite of the series because, like I said, I just don't get why is JFK the Phantom of the Opera. There's his mask. It doesn't really look like the kind of mask the Phantom would have. I mean, it almost looks like a Guy Fawkes mask. It looks like a mask that you would use in an opera, but not one that Eric the Phantom would use in an opera. So, and then his likeness is really good, but it's almost too good. It just looks like JFK, like a zombie or a dead JFK. It doesn't really look like a disfigured JFK. It's just John F. Kennedy with, as if you were wearing zombie makeup, like as a Halloween thing, maybe. You know, if he had trick-or-treaters over to the White House. But he's not disfigured. He's just kind of pale, zombie-like. The artwork on the back, you know, this obviously is reminiscent of the Aurora Phantom of the Opera model kit with that pose. Same deal on the back, or that was the back, same deal on the front. He's got that kind of Aurora Phantom model kit pose. And, you know, it's a nice figure, but I don't get it. I don't get why is JFK the Phantom of the White House. What's the story there? And why does he not look anything like any version of the Phantom? Like, they could have given him an upturned nose or something. He doesn't look like the Phantom. You know, he doesn't look. Why would he hide his face? There's no disfigurement there. So that's a little unusual. That's why this one's a little boring to me. I'm trying to see if I can get a look at his costume underneath, but no, it's covered up really good. So this one's not one of my favorites of the series. see what else we got in here. All right, here's Zombush. Yep, Zombush. Now, Zombush, he's George W. Bush as a zombie. He looks pretty good. He looks like a Night of the Living Dead kind of a zombie. He's got the kind of expression like the cemetery zombie in Night of the Living Dead. He's got pieces of flesh missing and his outfit's disheveled. So here's Zombush. And with some of these, I'm thinking, when choosing what monster they were going to be, I'm sure they just looked at, in some cases, the name and said, what does this name sound like? What monster name can we make out of this real person's name? And in other cases, they might have given priority to the personality or the legend of the person, like based on the personality traits they're known for, what monster really goes with that personality. So with Zombush, I think it was more a matter of just the name. Like, what can you do with Bush? Well, Zombie Bush, Zombush, okay. It might have been a comment on his intelligence. I'm not sure what they were trying to do. Is there a spider in there? No, I don't think so. Is there a bugaboo in there? It looks like maybe a little bugaboo might have gotten in there. How, though? It's completely sealed. There's no way in. Well, I come that way at the factory. I don't know. There's this tiny, tiny, tiny little bug stuck in there. I think it's a bug. It's a teeny weeny little thing. The thing is, if it was like, I mean, it's dead now, but if it were eating the fabric, you wouldn't know because his costume's all tattered anyway. But this is a nice figure. This is one of the better looking figures, I think. And here's the artwork on the front, artwork on the back. That's a pretty good painting. I mean, it's a pretty good illustration. It has a lot of action, a lot of movement. You can see he's in a graveyard. So this is a pretty decent looking toy. I'm trying to think, does the suit look like something George Bush would wear? I don't know. And yeah, I don't really associate him with any particular kind of suit. But it's a nice figure. Let me get a closer shot of his face. See what I mean about the expression? Very authentically zombie-like. It kind of reminds me of the cemetery zombie in Night of the Living Dead. It's pretty cool. So I don't know the connection between George Bush and a zombie. I was saying, yeah, I don't know what their thinking was. Some of these it's obvious. Some of these are not so obvious. I think it's probably a play on just Bush. What can you do with the name Bush? It has to have a B in it. Zombush, okay. Like Lincolnstein kind of rolls off the tongue. Some of these are a little more forced, perhaps. Like this one. The Ron Me. This is not Mitt Romney. This is Ronald Reagan. The Ron Me. So I think that's a bit of a stretch, getting mummy out of Ronald. But here he is, Ronald Reagan as a mummy. Actually, quite a bit I can say about this one. This is probably one of the better ones. There's Ronald Reagan as the Ron-Me. Ronald Reagan as the Mummy. And this artwork is really good. It certainly harkens to the Aurora model kit with that cobra in the pose. And although it's hard to see, but he does have one eye open and one eye closed, but it's not real obvious. So he has that kind of Karis-like closed eye thing going. So he has what appears to be, I don't know, what would you call this outfit? It's almost like something an archaeologist or explorer would wear. It's got that kind of khaki look, but then underneath he's got printed bandages. So here's his, look at his feet, his legs, those printed bandages, and then his chest area, and his sleeves, the part that's poking out, that you can see. So that's obviously an homage to the Mego Mad Mummy with those printed bandages. I mean, it's kind of the Remco mummy, 9-inch mummy, but I think it's really more, because we're talking about Mark Huckabee and the Mego guy, is going to be very Mego-centric. And so when I see this, particularly because of the color of it, it really looks like the Mego Mad Mummy. He has like a mummy jumpsuit with these clothes on over it. And that's interesting. They chose that because they could have just given him a mummy jumpsuit and just left it at that. They could have just given him a mummy jumpsuit with some bandages wrapped here and there, like the Mego one, and called it a day, but they gave him a jacket and pants. Here's the back. So, I think what they were going for was a play on Ronald Reagan's age, because when he was in office, that was always an issue. He's too old. People were saying when he was elected the first time, certainly the second term, they were saying he's too old. And then he was revealed that he had Alzheimer's after he left office. So maybe it's not that unusual now, but in the 80s, it seemed a little unique to have someone his age as president. So I think that's why they chose the mummy, just as a play on his age. And I like that his head is green. His head and his hands are green. That's interesting for a mummy. I like that. The Mego Mad Monster Mummy, I wouldn't call that green. Certainly Ahai is yellow. Lincoln is white. Remco is like a glow beige. So the only green mummy head I can think of is the Soki. The Colgate Palmolive Soki has a green head. But I think it works. I think it's a good look, giving him a green head. And it's a great Ronald Reagan likeness. Again, all of these things are great monster sculpts, but they're also great at capturing the real life person. So they do both things well. So here's the last one. This is Richard Nixon as the monster from the Watergate Lagoon. Well, that's kind of a stretch to try to connect him with the creature from the Black Lagoon, but they did it. Well, he's a unique character. Let's see. I think there's quite a bit we could say about him. So there he is, Richard Nixon, as the monster, not the creature, the monster from the Watergate Lagoon. And if you don't know what Watergate is, Google it. Richard Nixon, during a second term, he resigned. He stepped down as president because of a controversy that was known as Watergate. It was one of the big traumatic events during that period of American history. You had the whole Vietnam War through the 60s into the 70s. You had the assassinations of the two Kennedy brothers and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. You had the Kent State shooting and the Manson family massacre. You had all that stuff. And you had Watergate. That was like the cap on it. Or maybe the Iran hostage crisis was the cap on it. Or the energy crisis. I don't know. But it was just this, like 10 to 15 year cycle of bad news and just bad things happening to the country. And many people, it's not exactly an original thought, but many people would say that's when the country lost its innocence. That's when the United States of America lost its innocence. And when we shifted away from kind of the innocence of the 50s to the more cynical, the more savvy attitude of the late 70s and 80s. So Watergate was a big moment in American history. And of course, the way I described it was very stupid. So just Google it and read about it and find out all the ins and outs. It's much more complex than what I described. Monster from the Watergate Lagoon. And Watergate, water, lagoon, water. Like, so maybe it seems like a stretch, but I mean, that might be what they were thinking. And he has really good artwork again. I mean, they all have really good artwork. And you see in this painting, he's got his fingers like this. That was his trademark. He was always going like that. And the toy, it's hard to see it. Let's see, can you see it? Yeah, you can see it. The toy has fingers like that. He's got fishy feet, as you would expect. He has creature feet. He has gills, like the creature from the Black Lagoon. And I think he's one where they took a little more liberty with making the monster aspect more prominent with him. They kind of had to with the creature from the Black Lagoon. You can't really do a mild approach to that. You gotta monster it up a little bit more. So he's kind of like the Mummy, where he had like the monster outfit underneath and the more regular human clothes on top. He's got like a jacket and pants, but underneath he's got a creature jumpsuit. And it kind of looks like kind of like the Green Goblin, the Mego Green Goblin, or the Mego lizard's tail, where they had this sort of scaly pattern on this green fabric. I think that's what the inspiration for this was. And he looks appropriately glum. And he always kind of was like that. I mean, he wasn't a happy, kind of jovial president. He was kind of known for being very serious and very uptight, like that. If you've ever seen anyone imitate him, do an impersonation of him, they're always like this. They're this all the time. So, and yes, I was alive during Watergate. I was alive during the Nixon administration. Okay. Where should I put? I'll just set these over there. Okay. Now, there's the line. Presidential Monsters, 2011. I told you that they were hoping this line went so well that they thought they'd jump off into other things. They'd use this as a launch pad to pursue other connected properties. They thought this would be like their, I don't know, this was going to be their flagship toy line, and it would help them expand this line and then move into other areas. So they announced several other characters, and they showed prototypes of other characters at the 2012 San Diego Comic-Con and the 2013 New York Toy Fair. So they had a whole second series of 8-inch monsters. They had the Spirit of 76 that was originally planned for this line, the George Washington Ghost. They also had an Al Gore, which was the former Vice President Al Gore, who was Clinton's vice president. Al Gore as Igor. And that card art for Al Gore says an inconvenient assistant, because Al Gore was known for this documentary he made called An Inconvenient Truth, which was an environmental documentary. It was about the environment. And the idea, I guess, was an inconvenient assistant. I think it kind of depicted him as Igor often is depicted, as being kind of bumbling. Really, that's Fritz. If you're going to look back at the Universal movies where this idea started, Fritz was the bumbling assistant. Igor was very intelligent and very devious, and he was something of a mastermind in a broken body, and very bitter, but very intelligent and malevolent. So Igor isn't really the bumbling assistant. Fritz is the bumbling assistant, which is the trope they were using with Al Gore. Then they had Dr. Benjamin Frankenstein. So it was Ben Franklin as Dr. Frankenstein. So you had Lincoln as the monster, and you had Ben Franklin as Dr. Frankenstein. Jax Ferratu, Andrew Jackson as Nosferatu. Yeti Roosevelt. Now that's the one I was looking forward to. Teddy Roosevelt as the Yeti. And he came in either, if this had gone forward, he would have come in a white and a brown variant. And he had a big, poofy, fluffy, furry outfit. As I recall, his face wasn't particularly ape-like, but that's okay. I'm a sucker for anything Yeti. And by making a brown variant, he was also kind of Bigfoot as well. So that would have been cool. I mean, if they had made one of these, that would have been the one I chose. And if they had made two, and then maybe Spirit of 76 would have been the other one. General Eisenhower. Dwight D. Eisenhower as a werewolf. So they've already had a werewolf, so they're already having to double up on some of these monsters. Jimmy P.E.A. Jimmy P. Nuts. N-U-T-Z. Jimmy P. Nuts. Jimmy Carter in a straitjacket. Okay, so this is the one I don't get. I have no idea what he's supposed to be. It's Jimmy Carter. He's in a straitjacket. And there's some picture of like a black face with a big grin. It almost looks like something out of the Max. What were those things called? The Max had those little black creatures. I think they had big grins, didn't they? I'm not sure. It was a long time. I haven't given the Max much thought in a long time. So I'm not sure what this Jimmy Peanuts was supposed to be. He was in a straitjacket, and it was like he had some alternate head that was all black with a big white grin. I don't know what that's about. I don't know what PEA, I don't know, like a peanut, but PEA space NUTZ. Jimmy P. Nuts. I have no idea. I know Nuts, he's in a straitjacket, he's crazy. Okay, I get that. But then what's this blackface? I don't know. I don't know what the concept was there. Was he supposed to be like Hannibal Lecter? I don't know. Van Palin was Sarah Palin as Van Helsing. And she had a big, I think it was a bear hood, like a hood that was made it from a bear, like a bear's head with the ears. And she had weapons and stuff. So she's supposed to be Van Helsing. Sarah Palin is Van Helsing. Van Palin. And Hilvira was Hillary Clinton as a vampire. So kind of like Vampira, Hillary, or Elvira, I guess that would be more appropriate. Elvira, a vampire character. Hillary as a vampire. Hilvira. And of course, we know Hillary was presidential candidate in 2008, in 2016, former senator, former secretary of state, and first lady to Bill Clinton, who was Wolf Bill. And they also, all of those were 2012 San Diego Comic-Con and 2013 New York Toy Fair. They showed the prototypes, and they had artwork prepared for these things. Then they also announced sometime later Headless S. Grant, which was Ulysses S. Grant as the Headless Horseman. And the artwork has him on a horse, but I don't know if they were planning on giving him a horse or not, or if it was just the figure. And finally, I think this was unveiled in 2015, Trumpzilla, but instead of a Z, it's a $sign. So I don't know how you pronounce that. I'm going to say Trumpzilla. So it's Donald Trump as Godzilla. And I remember seeing a prototype picture in 2015. So I think that was announced in 2015. And that was a weird one because it was different. It was not an 8-inch Mego style figure like the rest. It was a big Godzilla toy. Kind of like this. I mean, it was a Godzilla toy. Is it cobwebs? Everything's cobwebs around here. It's the basement. But it was a big Godzilla toy, and it had Donald Trump's head. And instead of these plates, it had $signs. So imagine, the $sign, smaller, bigger, small, instead of the Stegosaurus plates. And then Donald Trump's head, kind of like that Trumpkin we saw with the old Lantern family, this caricature of Donald Trump's head. And his big hair. And the weird thing was the hair was supposed to be like an alien organism, like a parasite. And you could remove the hair, and it was its own thing with eyes. It was like its own little weird alien creature. And then you could stick it back in his head. So that was Trumpzilla. So that was Trumpzilla. I wasn't a big fan of that idea because I thought surely he should be an 8-inch figure compatible with the rest, because even under the best of circumstances they were never going to make that toy, because it would require all original tooling for all those plastic parts to make this thing. It would have been expensive to make. They couldn't reuse the body from the rest of the figures. It would be all new. It would be a different kind of construction. It would have been expensive to produce and expensive to buy. It would have been like a $40 or $50 toy. And it would come in a box. You probably wouldn't be able to see it unless you opened the box. It probably would need some assembly. So you couldn't display it. You know, if you had these on a shelf, you couldn't display it alongside the rest of the figures. It would be like a separate thing that wouldn't go with the rest of the line. So I don't know why they didn't just design him as an 8-inch figure. Well, I mean, it was 2015. So in 2015, no one was taking Trump's campaign seriously. No one thought he was going to get the nomination. Certainly no one thought he was going to win. So they probably looked at that as just like a cute little extra thing to add to the line. I'm sure if they'd known he was going to get the nomination and win, they might have taken a different approach. But so he was more like an accessory or a kind of like a vehicle or playset kind of a thing, an accessory to the line instead of another 8-inch figure. But none of those toys ever got made. Instead, in 2013, they also displayed 8-inch prototypes of Mitt Romney the robot, and Frankenford. That was Gerald Ford as Frankenstein, so we have another Frankenstein now. And Martin Van Buren as a Martian. Who knows who Martin Van Buren is? I mean, he's a president, I know, but nobody knows who Martin Van Buren is. I don't know why they chose him instead of, I don't know. Who else could they have chosen? FDR, Thomas Jefferson, whatever. So that was 2013. 2014 now. 2014, they finally put out something new. They made 4-inch figures of Baracula, Zombush, and JFK, Phantom of the White House. Little 4-inch figures where they took the heads from the 8-inch figures and put them on little disproportionate bodies, little Smurf-style bodies. So they had regular size head from the 8-inch figures and a miniature kind of a body that was frozen in a pose. I don't think the arms moved. I think it was just frozen pose. The heads probably moved. And I'm sure that they got that idea from the Tomlin mini monsters, the Tomlin that made the famous Monsters of Legend and the Star Raiders. They took their 8-inch heads from their 8-inch monster toys and put them on little bodies and put out a line of mini monsters on little Smurf style, like a Smurf scale format with a big head and a little body. That's probably what they were going for with this. And let's see here. So they only had these at the San Diego Comic-Con in 2014. So they were like a convention exclusive for the 2014 San Diego Comic-Con. They had individual carded Baracula, Zombush, and JFK. And then they had 2-packs where they paired Baracula and Zombush with a Mars Attacks alien. So they had a little super deformed Mars Attacks alien with the same kind of format with a big head and a little body. Mars Attacks, like from the trading cards. Tim Burton made a movie about it, but it originally was a set of trading cards in the 60s, and I think these were based more on the trading cards. So they had a little Mars Attacks alien paired with either Baracula or Zombush. I've never seen JFK paired with a Mars Attacks alien. They might have made him as well, but the photos I've seen of their booth at the convention, you see the 2-packs, Baracula and Zombush with the Mars Attacks aliens. You see the individual Baracula, Zombush, JFK. I don't see in that photo any 2-pack of JFK and a Martian, and I've never on eBay or anywhere else seen a JFK and a Martian. Doesn't mean they didn't make them, I just haven't seen them. Now, why in the world do they pair these presidential monsters, little versions, up with a Mars Attacks alien? Because they had the license to Mars Attacks. They were going after licenses. The wonderful thing about these presidential monsters, they didn't need a license. They're unlicensed. They didn't need a license for the monsters because they're generic. They're not Universal Studios or whatever. And they didn't need a license for the presidents because apparently when you're a political figure, people can make dolls of you or masks or whatever, and they don't need authorization, don't need a license. People have been doing that for decades. Pretty much every presidential cycle, there's masks, and very often they're dolls or novelties of some kind, and no one gets authorization for this stuff. And I don't know why it is that you can make an action figure of Barack Obama or I guess Donald Trump or George Bush or whoever, and you don't need to get them to sign off on it. It can be unauthorized, and you can use their name and everything. But you couldn't make an action figure of Lady Gaga or Lana Del Rey or Billie Eilish or something like that. You couldn't do a rock star and make a doll of them and put their name on it and their likeness and everything. You get sued. So what's the difference? I'm not sure. Just because one's in politics, the other's in music. You couldn't, I don't know who's in the news right now. Sacha Baron Cohen is in the news because he's got the new Borat movie out. You couldn't make a Sacha Baron Cohen action figure with his real name, I wouldn't think. I'm sure you'd get sued. But if he ran for office, then you could. I don't think he's an American citizen. I think he's a United Kingdom citizen, but whatever. If he were to run for prime minister, then I guess you could make an action figure of him. I don't understand how that works. I don't understand if one kind of celebrity, it's anything goes. Another kind of celebrity, no, you have to have permission. Yeah, I don't know why that works that way. But anyway, so the monsters, they didn't have to have a license for the monsters, didn't have to have a license for the celebrities, but so it was a great line where they could just do whatever they wanted and make all the money. But they were looking for licenses. I remember this because remember I told you about Monsterpalooza. I talked to Mark in person about some of this stuff at that show, and he was talking about how they were going after licenses. So Mars Attacks was one of the licenses that they got, and they made these little figures, and they showed prototypes of a Mego-style 8-inch Martian, which I liked. I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to buy one of those. I want to say that never came out. I could be wrong. I remember that being on my radar and thinking, oh, I'm going to buy one of those. I don't think it was ever available. They were going to make 8-inch Mars Attacks Mego-style action figures, and they had prototypes, they had photos, they had showed one on a card. You know, I'll probably, if I remember, I'll Google it later. But I don't think they came out. They're certainly not on the company website. I did look at the company website before I shot this, and they're not on there. So I don't know. I don't think they made the 8-inch figures. I could be wrong. But they made these little ones, and they were only an exclusive at this convention. And they made a limited number of sets, like 300 sets. I don't have any of these little figures. But that was, aside from, I think they had some dollar bills or something like that. They had president faces on it. That, I think, also was a convention giveaway. So that was the only other actual toys they've made. Certainly the only toys they've made in this line of presidential monsters. But they've been every single year saying these other presidential monsters are coming out. They're just around the corner. This is the year. Next year for sure, they're coming out. And I would think they'd want to time it for an election cycle. And they missed 2016, which would have been after the 2012 cycle, the next big presidential cycle. They missed that. This year, if you go on the website, at least as far right now when I'm recording this, it says coming for fall of 2020, the presidential monsters returns with these new figures, fall of 2020. I don't know how long that's been up there. Probably, I'm just guessing a year. It probably was 2019 when they put it up. Because they don't say this year, they say 2020. So they probably put that message up in 2019. Obviously, it's the fall of 2020 and they're not here. So they missed the 2020 presidential election cycle. I guess they can try for 2024. I don't know. Obviously, we had the COVID pandemic. I don't know if it were not for that, would they have gotten these out? I don't know. But like I said, because I've been following this for a while, every year they say they're coming out, all these new characters are coming out. 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. And they're not out. So that's why I would talk about these in the past tense. This is a series of toys that is now part of history. This is a decade old. This is a set of monster figures from the past. It'll be 10 years in a few months. This is just started November of 2020. And these came out in 2011. So, in 2 months, they'll be 10 years old. So these toys are now part of toy history, part of a different era. They're not a current series. So if they ever did put out more of them, I would look at that as a new toy series. I wouldn't say this series was out from 2011 to 2020 or 2021. I'd say there was this set of toys in 2011, and then a decade later, the same people put out another set of toys. However, I'm skeptical that we'll ever see that second series, and frankly, I don't think it would be a good idea to put out exactly the ones that they've promoted, because some of the older historical characters like Ben Franklin, okay, fine, that's not a problem. Spirit of 76, sure. Yeti Roosevelt, sure. But Al Gore and Van Palen, Hilvira, I don't know. Trumpzilla. So, if they're going to do a Trump figure, obviously he should be 8 inches like the rest of them. He should be the same format. Al Gore is from the 2000 presidential election. That's 20 years ago. Sarah Palin, nobody talks about Sarah Palin anymore. She's history. She's from years ago. She's not a current thing. Even Hillary, in 2016, yeah, she would have been very topical in 2016. Not so much now. And the further away we get from 2016, the less topical Hillary becomes. So she's receding back into history. If you're going to make presidential political satire toys today, you need current political figures. You need the the figures people are talking about now, of course they're talking about Trump because he's been the president the last 4 years. So don't make a kooky Godzilla thing. Make a toy like that. A proper part of the series. But you need Bernie Sanders. You need AOC. You need Mitch McConnell. Nancy Pelosi, Biden, Harris, Pence, the people who people talk about today, the current political figures, not Al Gore, from 20 years ago, and Sarah Palin. No one could care less about Sarah Palin today. That's just like a non sequitur. The first thing people say, where's Bernie? Where's AOC? Where are the candidates from the most recent presidential election, Trump and Biden? Where are the current figures? So if you really have to put out another set like this, I think that the modern characters really need to be of today. That those other characters, they might have been good for 2012 or maybe 2013 or 14, but this is 2020, soon to be 2021. So Sarah Palin, Al Gore, no. Hillary, I think an AOC figure would do much better than a Hillary figure. So if you're doing political satire, I think one of the primary prerequisites of political satire is it has to be current. It has to be topical. You can't do political satire from candidates from 10 and 20 years ago. So that's my opinion as someone who has collected this line about what I would want to see if I were going to buy more of these. I would feel kind of weird buying a Sarah Palin figure. That doesn't make any sense. The other thing is where I wonder if it's even a good idea in the first place. Remember I was talking about how Watergate and these other things, the country kind of lost its innocence. I think the country has gone through another phase of shedding innocence in the last few years. And it's been happening for a while, but particularly the last 5 years with a number of things happening, all of the social, cultural, political upheaval, all the controversy around Donald Trump and his presidency, all the controversy with the police shootings, mass shootings, all of the civil unrest, the rioting, the burning, statues, things like the Me Too movement, economic ups and downs, and then the real Godzilla stepping on everything, the COVID pandemic, to top it all off. I feel like the world has really turned a corner, and we're not living in the same world that we were living in when these came out. It's a different world. We've been through a lot, and the society's changed. And I think that when I look at these, I feel like I'm looking at something from a more innocent age, when we could laugh at politics, when we could laugh at presidents, and when we could all share a laugh. We've been divided for a long time, and we were divided when these came out, but I think we're more divided now. I'm not the first to say, many people have said this, this is the most divided we've been since the Civil War. And if our divisions were neatly aligned with some geographical line, we probably would have already have a civil war. So it's very hard for us to come together and share a sense of humor about presidents and politics in the way that I think we were still able to do 10 years ago. So I don't even know if people want this now. I don't know if it's funny anymore. I think we might have lost our sense of humor when it comes to this kind of subject matter. Obviously, we still have things like Saturday Night Live doing skits about the presidential campaigns. I've seen some of that. So there's still, people still have some humor about it. But I wonder if it's kind of like a comedian reading the room. I wonder if reading the room accurately would lead one to say this is the right time for a set of presidential satire monster toys. I don't know if this is the right time for that. I think maybe tensions are too high, and it's not a laughing matter these days. People aren't laughing about it. They're not easygoing about it. They can't joke about it. So these toys are almost like the last gasp of that time when we could laugh together, left and right. Republicans and Democrats could together look at something silly like this and and think this is fun. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you can look at this Ron Me and say, this is funny. You could look at Baracula and say, that's funny. That's a cool toy. Even if you like Barack Obama, him as a vampire is funny and cool. If you don't like it, if you don't like him as a president, it's still funny and cool. Whichever way you go, you can look at it and say, it's funny, it's cool, it's a neat toy. I wonder if we still have that. I wonder if there's still, that feeling still exists to the point where it would even make sense to make more toys like this. And now we have Mego back, the resurrection of the company that these are paying homage to. We have Mego out there making toys. So the market might be saturated with this kind of toy. We got NECA making all kinds of great monster toys. I don't know. I just feel like the reason I'm kind of going on about it is unusual for the same company to spend almost a decade trying to get a second series of action figures off the ground every year like this. It seems like maybe it would have been time to put it to rest a few years ago and move on to something else. But as far as I know, they're still trying to get them out. But I think the moment has passed some years ago. And I just don't... I think the characters that they had planned are out of date. And I think the mood of the country is not right for this kind of whimsical approach to politics. I could be wrong. Maybe it's just the kind of thing people are looking for, to have a laugh at this. Maybe. But the one thing I'm sure about is that the characters have to be more up to date. They can't have these 10, 20-year-old characters. They got to have some current characters. That I'm positive about. I might be wrong about the mood of the country being out of sync with this kind of a product. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But requiring up-to-date topical characters, I am not wrong about that. If you're going to do it, get Bernie, get Trump as an 8-inch figure, get Mitch McConnell, AOC, get Biden, get current topical political figures of today. Okay, well, I think that's it. didn't think I could make a election week episode with monster toys, but this is a unique line. Presidential monsters. This is presidential election week. And as of this moment when I'm recording this, I don't know who the president is. They're still counting votes. You know that I voted a month ago, so I didn't have to wait in line. But other people I know did. No one that I know had to wait for hours, but some people had to wait for like 1 hour maybe. So it wasn't too bad in my region. But I'm glad I did it early. I think from now on, if I'm able to do it early, that's what I'm going to do. If that's available, then that's what I'm going to do. It's more convenient. So, I guess when you watch this, you might know who the president is. I don't, but you might. I hope whoever it is does a good job and leads the country in a positive direction. And I hope we have peace and prosperity and a coming together. Most of my life, I grew up in the United States of America. Most of my life, it always seemed like even though we could disagree on things, we were all one united people. And it does not feel like that today. Absolutely not. Not at all. And a country cannot stand for very long divided like that. So my hope is that somehow, some way, we rediscover common values and things that make us one people, one society. As some people suggested when they saw my last video, I seemed sick. I still seem sick. They said maybe you need to take a break. So I'm going to take a break. We're going to take a little time off. We'll get rid of the Halloween stuff. We have a different background. I'll come back with non-Halloween and non-election oriented monster episodes. In the meantime, Thanksgiving Day on my YouTube channel, I am premiering the restored, remastered version of a 1995 documentary I made called In Love with Toys. In Love with Toys. It's a documentary about toy collecting. It was shot in 1995, and it was actually distributed and sold in 1995. It's been unavailable in a watchable version for a long time. I did upload a version to YouTube. I uploaded a digitized version to YouTube, but it was transferred from a VHS tape. And it looks horrible, and the audio is all garbled. It's terrible, but it was the only material I had, so I thought it was better to make that available than nothing at all. And that's been on YouTube for a few years, but now I've got a remastered version that looks good and sounds good, and I've added some extras. I've added commentary, so you have the films and you have me afterward giving commentary for I think it's like 45 minutes, where I'm talking about why I made the film, what I did during the making, what the aftermath was of trying to sell it and everything. And then I've got a panel discussion with some of the people you see in the documentary, a kind of where are they now type panel discussion 25 years later. Some of the collectors you see in the documentary are back for a panel discussion shot recently in 2020. And that's about another 45 minutes. So it's the documentary is about an hour and 15 minutes. So it's a long presentation. You might want to take it in chunks. But there's a lot there. If we were still in an age of physical media, I might have attempted to put this out as a DVD or Blu-ray. I mean, it's in standard definition, so I don't know if a Blu-ray would have made sense, but DVD. And I might have had the commentary, something you would listen to while you watched the film, and had some other extras and things. But since physical media is basically dead to everyone but crazy people like me, I have thousands of DVDs and Blu-rays, but I'm nuts, so that's why. If you're not nuts like me, then you just watch everything streaming. I'm a physical media guy, but there's not enough of me to warrant. There's not enough people like me to warrant the expense of trying to press a bunch of discs and trying to sell them. I mean, I went through that nightmare in 1995, as you'll learn if you watch and listen to the commentary. Whew. I think it's like once bitten, twice shy. I wouldn't make that mistake again. So it's better to just put it on YouTube for free. Anyone who wants to watch it can watch it. They can watch as much or as little of it as they want. It'll be available the morning of Thanksgiving. So while the turkey's baking, you can have this on in the background, I guess. You really need to see it, though. You need to see the toys. That's kind of the point. While the turkey's baking, you can watch this. It's just enough time for the turkey to be done. If you put the turkey in and then start this, by the time this presentation is finished, it's about close to 3 hours. Yeah, about 3 hours or so of material. By the time it's done, the turkey will be done. So you can use it to time the turkey. It's useful that way. Time your turkey by watching In Love with Toys, 25th Anniversary Special Edition. It's specially timed so that when the presentation, the film, the commentary, the panel discussion, when that's over, it'll be just the right time to take the turkey out. So it serves a useful purpose. So be watching for that. Thanksgiving Day. Okay, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. I tried not to get too political, but it's kind of hard to not get political when you're talking about political toys. I try to avoid politics, but it's election week. I thought this was appropriate. You don't get many chances to tie in monster toys with presidential election, so if I take advantage of a rare opportunity, it won't come again for 4 years. And here we go. Okay, that's it. Thanks a lot. I'm out of here. My voice is going away, so I better cut this off, and I think I'll go rest. I'll be gone for a few weeks, but then I'll be back, rested and ready to go. Healthy, vibrant, ready to go. Thanks a lot. Remember, the one who dies with the most toys is dead. Bye.